In an era fraught with uncertainty, how close is Germany to slipping into a military regime? Recent parliamentary debates reveal a country teetering on the brink of mobilization, fueled by tensions echoing across Europe and the Middle East. Just as whispers of conflict grow louder, a seemingly benign legal term signals a dire shift in national security, one that could transform everyday life into a battleground. Imagine the streets of Berlin and Munich thrumming with the distant sound of marching boots. Soldiers return, weapons drawn, control returns to train stations, and civilian freedom flickers like a dying flame. The whispers in the corridors of power shout, "We are one step away from war." This alarming proclamation reshapes alliances and stirs adversaries, heightening the stakes across Europe. Compounding the tension is the unexpected failure of a strike in Doha, which doused hopes for diplomatic progress at a time when political gamesmanship flourished. Qatar emerges as a surprising benefactor as Donald Trump teams up with new plans for Gaza, promising security guarantees that twist the regional balance of power. In a startling turn, Israel, driven to desperation, publicly apologizes to Doha, thus shattering the illusions of control. But wait. Just as Germany debates its martial readiness and unwinds its Socha fabric, chaos erupts at home. A bomb blast in Munich disrupts Oktoberfest, unleashing terror among thousands. Meanwhile, authorities in Berlin arrest Hamas operatives armed and ready to strike at the heart of European security. Are these incidents mere coincidences? Or are they warning signs of a crumbling facade of safety? With every new twist, the situation escalates. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, now running solely on diesel, edges closer to catastrophe as it becomes a pawn in this chess game of power plays. Europe finds itself caught in a web of military threats and humanitarian crises, where every action reverberates across borders. Now, more than ever, citizens must ask, are we prepared to pay the price for security? The once familiar landscape of Europe, rich with peace and stability, now faces turmoil. As Germany deliberates on mobilization, the dark specter of war looms ever larger. Will tomorrow simply be an extension of this conflict, or will it mark the precipice of a cataclysmic change for the entire continent? The clock ticks, and the answer hangs in the balance. In the last chapter, Germany teeters on the brink of a stark transformation. Parliament debates a tension state, repurposing factories and lives for potential war. This signals a decisive shift, declaring readiness for conflict and reshaping how Europe views alliances and rivalries alike. Picture the streets of Berlin shrouded in fog, the sharp crack of boots echoing on cobblestone as soldiers patrol under a gray sky. Could one minor incident ignite a blaze that engulfs the continent? That's the chilling reality unfolding here. Alarms blare in the minds of ordinary people, their coffee mugs trembling in nervous hands. Rory Kiesewetters' voice isn't isolated. For years, powerful voices in German politics have warned of the Bundeswehr's frailty, the rusted gears of a once mighty machine. They've pleaded for ironclad discipline, envisioning Germany reborn as a fortress of military might. Now, their words transform into ironclad law, the ink drying on pages that could summon any citizen to the ranks. Are you prepared to trade your daily routine for this brutal chess game? Imagine the weight of a rifle in your unready palms, the metallic tang of gunpowder filling the air as neighbors vanish into uniform. This isn't fantasy, it's a codified blueprint. With a single parliamentary nod, the state flips to war footing, no thunderous declaration needed. Yet, while Berlin hones its edge, the Middle East spins a wilder tale of misfires and miracles. An Israeli strike on leaders of Hamas in Doha was meant to unravel diplomacy, but it spiraled into brilliance for Qatar and Donald Trump. Feel the heart-pounding roar of rockets shattering the night sky over Doha, the acrid smoke stinging eyes and throats like betrayal itself. Arab nations erupted in fury, their voices a thunderous storm. Qatar froze mediations, their accusations echoing through the United Nations like cracking gunfire. Netanyahu cornered himself, the walls closing in with every critical glare. But Trump's team spotted an opening in the chaos, wielding a 21-point plan like a master key. At its core, demilitarize Gaza, install a technocratic government and outsiders' puppet show to control the region. Palestinian independence? Shelved indefinitely, gathering dust in the shadows. Central to this gambit is Tony Blair, the former UK Prime Minister shadowed by Iraq's sands of regret. He'll helm Gaza's impartial rulers. Hamas faces a stark ultimatum: embrace the new order or forfeit funds and allies. Trump dialed Netanyahu 5 times, his threats slicing through the line like a whip. Accept the deal, or stand alone in the dark. Under duress, Israel apologized to Qatar in a public spectacle that burned their pride. In return, Qatar claims unprecedented American shields and unofficial umbrella cloaking them from threats. No assault on the emirate now without rattling the stars and stripes. This sets a seismic precedent. Saudi Arabia and Israel coveted such protection for decades, only to be denied. Yet Qatar, once whispered to harbor extremists, steps under the eagle's wing. What does this masterstroke unveil for the region? Power tilts toward Doha as chief mediator in Hamas talks. Turkey and Egypt linger on the fringes. But Qatar holds the ace, no deal thrives without their nod. Europe sighs in relief, peace talks resuscitated. But peel back the veneer, Gaza's fate dangles from foreign strings, statehood a distant phantom. This isn't harmony, it's a fragile pause, stretching into decades of hidden fractures. As ripples spread, will this uneasy calm mask deeper storms, or shatter into unforeseen betrayal? In the last chapter, we witnessed how the situation escalated for Israel and Qatar. Under immense pressure, Israel issued a public apology to Qatar after Donald Trump made it clear, accept the new rules or face complete isolation from support. This pivotal moment would reverberate across the region, impacting alliances and power dynamics. Now, let's delve further. The United States, in a strategic maneuver, effectively extended an unofficial security umbrella over Qatar. This shift signals that any aggression aimed at Qatar is perceived as an attack on America itself. This historical precedent has been a long-awaited dream for Saudi Arabia and Israel, but they were always turned away. Ironically, Qatar, previously criticized for its connections to extremism, has found itself sheltered under U.S. protection. But what does this mean for the broader geopolitical landscape? Doha now emerges as the key intermediary in negotiations with Hamas, with Turkey and Egypt involved as players as well. However, it's Qatar that holds the real cards, for movements in the negotiation process cannot advance without its nod. For Europe, there was a collective sigh of relief as the peace process seemed to breathe again. Yet, this calmness is deceptive. Palestine remains without statehood, while technocrats imposed from abroad manage Gaza. What is labeled as peace is merely a postponement of conflict, one that could stretch across the next decade. Meanwhile, in Washington, a new battle cry emerges from the Pentagon: we are no longer on the defensive. We are preparing to win. Donald Trump and the Secretary of Defense have firmly shifted military doctrine, reinstating discipline and proactive strategies in the U.S. military. Logistics are being revamped, air support and fuel stations are repositioning closer to hotspots. Training programs and purchasing priorities are being reconfigured. What was once a strategy of holding the line now pivots toward breakthrough and victory. The dangers of this doctrine are stark. When victory becomes the sole objective, diplomacy fades. Compromise is construed as defeat, concession appears weak. In an environment defined by such thinking, the likelihood of escalation skyrockets. Simultaneously, in London, a former defense minister made a chilling declaration: Crimea must be rendered uninhabitable. The aim? Strikes against bridges, ports, and power grids, crippling the peninsula's economy and infrastructure. The official stance is to impose a steep price on Moscow for holding the region. Yet in reality, this would create a humanitarian catastrophe for millions and spark direct retaliation. As if that weren't enough, Europe now grapples with the potential establishment of a Western missile defense system over Ukraine. Ostensibly for protection against drones and missiles, this move effectively means a permanent presence of Western technology and personnel within Ukrainian borders. Long-term bases and storage facilities will not vanish after a conflict ends. This shift heralds a new status quo, a subtle form of military occupation. With this backdrop, the circumstances surrounding the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant grow increasingly precarious. Now in a precarious state, the facility operates solely on diesel generators as external power has been cut for a week. Rafael Grossi, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, has ominously warned, the threat of a nuclear accident is closer than ever. Current fuel supplies are estimated to last about 10 days. Any disruption in power supply threatens the cooling systems essential for reactor safety. With Kiev accusing Moscow of targeting power lines, and Moscow countering that the blame lies with those in control of the facility, the reality remains unchanged: the largest nuclear power plant in Europe teeters on the brink of disaster. Amidst these swirling tensions on the front lines, reports illustrate a stark shift in the pace of Russian troop movements. According to intelligence, September saw a slowdown, with only 259 new territories occupied compared to 500 in August. Major clashes continue in the Novopavlivka direction and near Pokrovsk. At night, Russian forces unleashed missiles on a convoy near Chernihiv, claiming to have destroyed over 20 vehicles and a multitude of drones. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces report a barrage of drone assaults against Russia's border regions, igniting fires and power outages across Belgorod and disrupting air traffic in Saratov and Volgograd. The chaotic scene escalates as Ukrainian defenders assert they intercepted a substantial number of the attacking drones. Yet still, some breached defenses, causing power disruptions in numerous towns on both sides. And as if this chaos weren't enough, Germany finds itself at the epicenter. An explosion in fire at Oktoberfest in Munich leads to a mass evacuation, with armed police and special forces deployed. Concurrently, 3 suspected Hamas operatives are apprehended in Berlin, found with weapons and plants targeting Jewish establishments. These haunting incidents unmask the fragile facade of safety in Europe, revealing a growing tapestry of fear and trepidation. The chilling question lurks: how safe are German cities amidst rising threats? Today serves as a stark reminder that danger can strike at any moment at a festive gathering, in a residential area, or right in the heart of the capital. Germany stands at a crossroads, facing the choice to tighten its grip and restrict freedoms or to maintain its liberties, risking vulnerability. Meanwhile, the backdrop of conversation centers around mobilization in Germany, while the US and the UK contemplate military action. With the Zaporizhzhia plant running solely on diesel and both Russia and Ukraine exchanging blows, and Europe confronting internal terror attacks, this realm is not a series of isolated incidents, it is a tapestry of a new epoch where war, terror, and nuclear peril intertwine deeply. The world teeters on the precipice, forcing a poignant inquiry: will tomorrow merely continue the cycle of war, or will it herald a catastrophe reshaping the lives of millions across Europe? Could Europe be building a fortress over Ukraine, only to bury itself in ruin? In a world teetering on disaster, where nuclear shadows lurk and cities bleed, one shocking fact screams louder than sirens: the largest nuclear plant in Europe now hangs by a thread, fueled only by diesel hums, with just 10 days before meltdown risks explode. That's right, day 1316 of the conflict draws nigh, and factions accuse each other of grenades tossed at power lines, while the roar of failing reactors echoes global dread. Will diplomacy disarm this ticking bomb, or will unseen hands ignite a catastrophe scarring continents forever? Picture this: Europe, whispering about shields over Ukraine. Not just drones deflected, rockets shattered. No. It's boots, tech, NATO bases sinking roots. Long-term depots stockpiling ammo. War ends, but this grip lingers, a velvet glove on an iron fist, shifting borders without a shot. Feel the chill of strategists' breath, the clink of treaties forged in hushed halls. Is this defense, or a Trojan horse erasing old maps? Yet, as arguments simmer, a nuclear specter rises. Zaporizhzhia Station, Europe's giant, survives on diesel growls alone. A week without grid lifeline. IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi warns starkly: nuclear peril creeps closer. Fuel dwindles to 10 days. One glitch, and reactors cool and brace vanishes, hot meltdown staling the air. Kiev points fingers at Moscow's firestorms. Moscow scoffs: blame the ones who hold the keys. Irrelevant now. The plant perches on doom's lip, sirens silent but screams imminent. What if a spark, a missed fix? A targeted blast unleashes radiation so thick, so poisonous, it chokes towns across oceans? Frontlines pulse hot, tensions coiled like vipers. Russian advances stall per deep state trackers, 500 square kilometers seized in August, 259 in September. Fights raging near Novopavlovsk, Pokrovsk's dust. Night falls with Russian Iskander-M missiles howling toward truck convoys under Chernihiv. Ministry claims, over 20 vehicles obliterated, 100 drones vaporized. But Ukraine counters with drone swarms battering Russian edges. In Belgorod, strikes ignite cars, sparks lighting blacked-out streets amid acrid smoke. Saratov and Volgograd airports shudder, runways echoing lockdowns. Kharkiv markets ablaze, garages roaring flame, the charred scent of panic wafting. Ukrainians boast felling 44 of 49 drones, 4 Iskanders, 1 Onyx. Yet targets still shudder. Power flickers off in scores of villages, lights dying like hope. Who pays the human toll? Families huddled in dark, touch of cold walls, threat of retaliation looming vast? And then, in Europe's heart, terror erupts unexpectedly. Munich's Oktoberfest freezes mid-celebration. Bombs detonate, crowd scatters like leaves in gale. Thousands flee, hearts pounding to boots thundering evacuation. Hundreds of special forces, sappers probing wreckage, the sting of smoke in lungs, cries piercing air. Berlin, meanwhile, snares 3 Hamas suspects, automatics seized, ammo caches, blueprints targeting Jewish sites. These crises shatter illusions, solitary bomb dramas merging terrorist webs into Europe's fractured mirror. Germany questions armor, bullets at beloved fests. Or plots in capital shadows? Will they tighten chains, snuff freedoms for safety's lie? As threats interlayer mob calls, strike vows, plant perils, strike and counter, does this weave war's fabric tighter, or unravel to apocalypse? If tomorrow uncurls another bomb's fuse, will Europe awake a battleground anew, or tumble into silence eternal? In the previous segment, power outages plagued numerous towns on both sides of the border, while Germany found itself at the heart of chaos. A fire and explosions at Oktoberfest in Munich led to mass evacuations and the mobilization of hundreds of special forces and bomb disposal units. Today's events have left Europe questioning the very fabric of its safety. The frightening incidents at Oktoberfest and the arrests of 3 suspected Hamas militants in Berlin, armed with rifles and ammunition, have shattered any remaining illusions of security. The threat of terrorism is no longer a distant concern, it is becoming an urgent reality. Each day, the possibility of an attack looms larger, echoing through the bustling streets of Berlin and the joyful cheers of Oktoberfest. Germans find themselves at a crossroads. Should they tighten security measures, enforce draconian laws, and wrap society in a bubble of protection? Or do they strive to preserve their freedoms, risking vulnerability in the process? These choices weigh heavily on the nation as discussions about military mobilization intensify. Meanwhile, the United States and the United Kingdom are strategizing strikes, and the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant relies on diesel, teetering on the brink of disaster. With Russia and Ukraine locked in a relentless exchange of blows, Europe is also facing internal threats. The alarming convergence of war, terrorism, and the specter of nuclear catastrophe illustrates an era fraught with tension. The world stands at the precipice. Teetering between the continuation of conflict and a potential calamity that could reshape life across the continent. What awaits tomorrow? Will it merely extend the saga of warfare, or will it usher in an unprecedented disaster?